have the planetarium. The Royal Greenwich Observatory was created by Royal Warrant in England by Charles II today, June 22nd, 1675. So 1675, right? 350 odd years ago. Now, the observatory was commissioned by King Charles II on June 22nd, 1675. Then the foundation stone was laid on August the 10th, 1675. Now, this is important because the Greenwich Observatory is right where the median, the median line of longitude, right? You got latitude, latitude, longitude. Now, the 0-degree longitude goes right through Greenwich. Why? Because that's where the Greenwich Observatory is. Now, in 1767, the observatory began publishing the Nautical Almanac, which established the longitude of Greenwich as the baseline for time calculations. The primary uses of the Greenwich Observatory was practical astronomy, navigation, timekeeping, the determination of star positions. So it's like a big dome, right, a planetarium, and they're looking at the stars. And they were publishing this Nautical Almanac because they were like experts in timekeeping and navigation and the determination of star positions. Now, the almanac's popularity among navigators led in part to the adoption in 1884 of the Greenwich Meridian as the Earth's prime meridian, the 0-degree longitude line, and the international time zones. So now France is going to have a problem with that, right? So England is saying that a city in London, that's where Greenwich is. Greenwich is in a district in southeastern London. So the prime meridian is based on the Royal Observatory, which was commissioned today by King Charles II, and it was put in Greenwich in London in 1851. They said that's when the prime meridian was based. Now, then it's saying later on, okay, so they're assuming it is, but it hasn't become official yet. Then 1884, over two-thirds of all ships and tonnage used the Greenwich as the 0-degree prime meridian line in reference to charts and maps. So two-thirds of all the ships were basically using it anyways. So in October of 1884, the greatest president ever, Chester A. Arthur, right? Chester A. Arthur, the man with the beard, with the funky beard, with the, the big-ass sideburns. Now, with the T.J. Miller sideburns, right? 41 delegates from 25 nations met in Washington, D.C., U.S., for the International Meridian Conference. This conference selected the meridian passing through Greenwich as the official prime meridian due to its popularity. France abstained from the vote, and French maps continued to use the Paris meridian for several decades. Sorry, France, the U.S. should have helped with your French Revolution. If the French Revolution was successful, we would be on your all's time, right? 0 would have been the time when King Louis XVI lost his head. So why is any of this matter? Well, it's because it's June 22nd. June 22nd. No panty day, right? So Aliyah Al-Mahdi, that's the person I'm going to imagine that I'm explaining all this to, right? So I got to be serious, and I got to talk about revolutionary things that I believe Aliyah would want to be talking about. And Free Panty Day. She used her body as a form of protest. So, I hope Aliyah Al-Mahdi is doing okay. So, I'm not for sure who started this free balling going commando day, but I like it. No Panty Day. I don't know why. I don't know who started it, but if you Google No Panty Day, you'll see lots of pictures that reinforces that June 22nd is No Panties Day. So if you're wearing underwear, you need to take them off. June 22nd, 1969. Now, the Cuyahoga River caught on fire. It caught on fire. And it wasn't the first time it caught on fire in 1969, June 22nd. So it drew national attention to water pollution, and then eventually it spurred the passing of the Clean Water Act. So we get the Clean Water Act because the fucking Cuyahoga River caught on fire, and that's in Cleveland, Ohio. the Cuyahoga River were caught on fire. And then eventually the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency comes out of this, fucking river light, catching on fire. How much pollution has to be in a river for a river to catch on fire? There have been at least 13 fires have been reported on the Cuyahoga River. The first one occurring in 1868. The largest river fire in 1952 caused over $1 million in damage to boats, a bridge, and a riverfront office building. Then, June 22nd, 1969, a river fire captured the attention of Time magazine, which described the Cuyahoga as the river that oozes rather than flows, and in which a person does not drown but decays. The 1969 Cuyahoga River fire helped spur an avalanche of water pollution control activities, resulting in the Clean Water Act, the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement. Cuyahoga goes into the Erie Lake. So the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement, the Clean Water Act, and then the creation of the Federal Environmental Protection Agency and Ohio's Environmental Protection Agency, the OEPA. Now, Richard Nixon is the one who got the EPA. He proposed the establishment of it, and it began operation on December 2nd, 1970, after Nixon signed an executive order. So Nixon signs an executive order, like Trump has been signing. He's, got 3,000 executive orders now, and the EPA was created by executive order. I think later on he's going to get, the backing from Congress for this, but this is a liberal thing. The EPA, Donald Trump hates the EPA, so Donald Trump would be to the right of Nixon. Nixon created the EPA after, the Cuyahoga River fucking set on fire, set on fire, or caught fire. Was it set on fire, or did it catch fire? Who knows, right? But if it wasn't that polluted, it shouldn't have caught on. A river should never catch on fire. That should never happen. So that happened June 22nd, 1969, and then by 1.5 years later, in 1970, Nixon created the EPA. So it sucks that Cuyahoga River was, in flames on this day, June 22nd, in 69, but we got the EPA out of it. In 1999, the first demonstration of brain signals from live rats directly controlling a robot arm was published by Nature Neuroscience. Okay, so I've actually got this article up here, and it's June 22nd. This is Duke Health, corporate.dukehealth.org, but it's published June 22nd, 1999. And this is remarkable. What they did is there's ways you can register whether every neuron is firing, neurotransmitters, and you can test this shit. You can test it, and you can see what's going on. Now, instead of trying to figure out which neurons were responsible for movement, at first they had to find out what were the neurons that was responsible for the movement. What were those, to begin with? So they would sit there and watch the rats do all this stuff with all the studying, and then they found out which set of neurons, because it's like a cluster of neurons for every single action. Once they were able to isolate where those neurons that cause motor activity were firing from, then they put this sort of like an electrode, what do they call them? Electrode single unit recordings, something, microelectrode system, microelectrode, and then multi-electrodes, I don't know. But essentially, there's a quote here: previously, researchers have focused on single neurons in the motor systems. We took a broader look and found that if we could recreate the many signals sent by dozens of neurons at the same time, we could essentially program the movement into the brain. And that's what they did. You could program the movement into the brain. Eventually, the rats would learn that they didn't need to actually move the motor, physically in order to move the robot arm. All they had to do was think of those, of doing it. And once they thought about doing it, the robot arm moved. So it's like some Terminator shit, right? That's like it could be some MK Ultra shit too, right? Fuck, if they could actually get into our brains and then see which one's firing with it, with our motor skills, they could probably easily, right, control our brains and control our actions. Now, the application, why this is so exciting, the direct application would be for amputees. People that get robotic arms, you could use, if it's happening in rats, you could use the neurotransmitters, the way, you know, the person could think about moving their robotic arm, and then the robotic arm moves, just like a regular arm does. So they're able to, you know, do a man-made arm, basically. A man-made robotic arm. That happened in 1999. June 22nd is when they published this. So happy finding neurotransmitters in your head that you could control so you could help the paraplegics out day. That's awesome. I think it might be the best scientific thing that I found that happened today. June 22nd, 1815, fucking Napoleon Bonaparte, the racist imperialist. Basically, he fucked France. He fucked the revolution. He installed himself as the monarch. He's, you know, invading Russia, which was absolutely disastrous. Basically, he goes from 500,000 to just like him. He's the last person. The Russians kicked fucking Napoleon Bonaparte's ass, and they, you know, Napoleon was kicked out and put into Elba. He was like in his own little island, and then he comes back and takes France over. So they had already fucking stopped him once, but then he comes back and takes the reins again. But unfortunately, the Battle of Waterloo ends Napoleon Bonaparte's imperialistic bullshit. He falls into the ash heap of history, never to return again. So good. Fuck Napoleon Bonaparte. Fuck that racist, anti-revolutionary, imperialist, asswipe, dirty, rotten son of a bitch. And fuck anybody who speaks good about that cornflake. Fucking Napoleon. He's a piece of shit. He said about Haiti, he didn't want to conquer Haiti for the money. He didn't want the, you know, the slave labor. What he wanted was to stop the march of progress of blacks in the world. He didn't want black people to know that they could run their own things. So it was strictly racism. Why are you going and, you know, why'd you kill Leclerc? All those French troops that went to Haiti to, you know, put down the Haitian Revolution. That was all based on just racist, white supremacist fucking bullshit. That was it. That was it. And it actually turned out good for the U.S. We got 13 states from the Louisiana Purchase because of Napoleon Bonaparte's shitty fucking military maneuvers and the Haitian revolutionaries. June 22nd, 2009. This is another postmodern success. So Eastman Kodak Company announced that it would discontinue sales of the Kodachrome color film, citing declining demand. This is the 35 millimeter film. They've already stopped with the pictures with the cameras, you know, that use 35 millimeter film, and now they're saying in June 22nd, 2009, so 8 years, they're not using it anymore, ever again. So I remember the days when we had to wait a week or two to just get 24 pictures developed. You would have a roll, right? You don't want to expose it to the sunlight or it would fuck all your pictures over. You'd have to put it in the camera and, you know, spin it and put it perfectly in your camera. And it took actually for some really incredible quality pictures. But apparently with digital cameras, with printing and the, you know, advances in modern science now, they quit doing it. And I think there's still Fujifilm, Fujichrome, and then Kodak Ektachrome is going to replace the Kodachrome, but the color film, you know, the 35 millimeter Kodachrome, they quit producing them. It's a brand name. Kodachrome is a brand name for a non-substantive color reversal film introduced by Eastman Kodak in 1935. So I think it's a victory for postmodernism. When you have a digital camera and you can print it at home, why invest in, you know, fucking 35, yeah, all those moving parts and shit, losing it, go to the developing thing, then they could fuck it all up, right? They could expose it and then wait a week. There's some places, pharmacies, you could do it like within an hour, right? Hour developing photos. June 22nd, 1974. Here's a nice scientific achievement, kind of scientific. The Sears Tower, which is now called the Willis Tower, but in Chicago, they had the sky deck was open, the sky deck. And what's awesome about the sky deck is that they have these glass balconies. I think it's like a hotel or whatever, offices or whatever, but you go to the balconies and you could see glass on the bottom, glass on the sides, glass. And I saw one person sitting on it and I'm like, I'm like scared for the guy, but it seemed like it was pretty sturdy. It was pretty structurally sound. So that happened in 1974, June 22nd. The building is considered a seminal achievement for its architect, Fazlur Rahman Khan. The Willis Tower is the second tallest building in the United States. And the tallest building would be the Freedom Building, the one Freedom, the thing that replaced the World Trade Centers. But then that's actually dependent on whether you count the antenna or if you count the top floor. If you count the top floor, I think the Willis Tower, the Sears Tower, is still the tallest building in the U.S. But in around the world, the top 20 buildings, only two of them, the Willis, the Sears Tower, and then the One World Trade Center, entered the top 20. So I'll get to that here in a second. But the Willis Tower, more than 1 million people visit its observation deck each year, making it one of Chicago's most popular tourist destinations. The structure was renamed in 2009 by the Willis Group as part of its lease on a portion of the tower space. As of December 2013, the building's largest tenant is United Airlines, which moved its corporate headquarters from the United Building at 77 West Wacker Drive in 2012, and today occupies around 20 floors with its headquarters and operations center in the Willis Tower, formerly the Sears Tower. The building's official address is 233 South Wacker Drive, Chicago, Illinois, 60606, the 2,717-foot, 828-meter tall Burj Khalifa in Dubai has been the world's tallest building since 2008. So the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, that's the United Arab Emirates, they have the tallest building in the world. So it got 163 floors. 163 floors. So the top 20, let's just look at the top 20 buildings here. Wikipedia list of tallest buildings. Number 2 is the Shanghai Tower. Number 3 is the Abraj Al Bayt Clock Tower. Number 4 is Ping An Finance Center. Number 5 is Lotte World Tower. Number 6, One World Trade Center. So the One World Trade Center, they're putting at 6, so they got to be measuring the antenna. And some people say, well, that's not, you can't count the antenna. You could just shoot the antenna up really fucking high. That's not the building. You want a structurally sound building with the floors. So where's the top floor? So I disagree that One World Trade Center should actually be listed so high on this. But so far, number 1 is United Arab Emirates. They got the tallest building. Number 2 is China. Number 3 is Saudi Arabia. Number 4 is China. Number 5 is South Korea. Number 6 is One World Trade Center, which I don't even think it deserves to be up that high. Number 7 is China, the CTF Finance Center, then Taiwan, then China, Malaysia, China, United States, Willis Tower. So they put that at 16, but I think the Willis Tower is bigger than the One World Trade Center. 17 is China, 18 is China, 19 is China, and then number 20, 432 Park Avenue. That's what they call the building, the actual address of the building. 432 Park Avenue is in the top 20 list of tallest buildings in the world. It's a residential skyscraper in Manhattan, so 432 Park Avenue. It's actually a gorgeous structure, pretty simple. Seems like it's just, one big-ass phallic symbol. But isn't that what, being part of, with the scientific progress, you want the biggest fucking building, the highest building ever, right? Isn't that a modern marvel achievement? I think so. So, the building required the demolition of the 495-room Drake Hotel. It was built in 1926. It was purchased for $440 million in 2006 by developer Harry Macklow. This is 432 Park Avenue. But that has nothing to do with June 22nd. June 22nd just was the sky deck. They put a sky deck in the Sears Tower. So I like the conversation about the tallest buildings in the world. The sky deck, I don't know. How the glass balconies, that was pretty, I was amazed by the glass balconies. So that's June 22nd, 1974, after Nixon had resigned. 1977, June 22nd, former Attorney General John N. Mitchell began serving a sentence for his role in the Watergate cover-up. Apparently Nixon, if you're the president, it is a crime because John N. Mitchell had to go to jail, right, in 1977, June 22nd. So that's good. That's a good thing. That's the fucking corrupt going to jail. Now, John Dillinger was he was America's first public enemy number one. J. Edgar Hoover wanted to launch, his FBI, his whatever, Federal fucking Bureau, whatever it was called at the time, by using John Dillinger as an example. John Herbert Dillinger was basically lauded as a Robin Hood. He was taking matters into his own hand during the Depression era. He was a gangster in the Depression era in the U.S. He had a German grandmother, Matthias Dillinger, his grandfather, so he's of German ancestry. His grandfather had immigrated to the U.S. in 1851 from Metz in the region of Lorraine, then under French sovereignty. When much of America was drowning in debt, Dillinger was taking matters into his own hands, right? He operated within a group known as the Dillinger Gang, and they were accused of robbing 24 banks and 4 police stations. They weren't just robbing banks, they were robbing police stations. So if you actually think about it, yeah, I guess they got a lot of guns, right? Police stations would probably have money, guns, and then it said other activities. So 24 banks total, 4 police stations were robbed, and then Dillinger himself had escaped from jail 2 times. He was also charged with, but never convicted of, the murder of an East Chicago, Indiana police officer who shot Dillinger in his bulletproof vest during a shootout, prompting Dillinger to return fire. So, despite his infamy, that was actually Dillinger's only homicide charge. But he was self-defense, right? Yeah, I was robbing the bank, but then he didn't have to shoot at me as soon as he started shooting at me. And then that's it. East Chicago, Indiana. So, I guess Chicago spills into Indiana. Now, that's the only homicide charge. I don't know if that's the only person he actually killed, but the only one he was charged with. And I'm not for sure of that specific incident. But that's amazing. 24 banks he robbed. 4 police stations he robbed, among other activities, and he only got charged with 1 murder? How did you rob so many banks and so many police stations without ever killing anybody up until that, East Chicago, Indiana police officer shot at Dillinger? So, J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI director, so was the FBI, developed a more sophisticated bureau as a weapon against organized crime using John Herbert Dillinger of German descent in his gang as a campaign platform. And then July 22nd, 1934, the police and the Division of Investigation closed in on the Biograph Theater. Federal agents led by Melvin Purvis and Samuel P. Cowley moved to arrest Dillinger as he exited the theater. And then Dillinger drew a Colt Model 1908 vest pocket gun, attempted to flee, but was killed. So that's interesting. He drew the gun and attempted to flee. You're not drawing a gun if you're running away. But he was killed. So that's actually, the turnaround within 1 month. So in June 22nd, 1934, J. Edgar Hoover said John Dillinger is the public enemy number 1. Within a month, they cornered John Dillinger, and then they killed him. And that was it. That was all she wrote. So, could they have arrested him? Doesn't matter, right? Fucking J. Edgar Hoover thinks he's above the law. He's going to tell MLK to go kill himself. And fuck J. Edgar Hoover. I mean, it is what a horrible foundation for the FBI to have a fucking J. Edgar Hoover. That weird fucker dressing in drag and shit. There's nothing wrong with that, but you know that he would have, looked down on other people. Fuck J. Edgar Hoover. Fuck J. Edgar Hoover. John Dillinger, I don't know. During the Depression, right, the fucking banks and the politicians failed everybody, and he was like, fuck it, I'm going to rob the fucking police and the bankers. Give a man a gun, he could rob a bank. Give a man a bank, he could rob the world. June 22nd, 1944, U.S. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signs into law the Servicemen's Readjustment Act of 1944, commonly known as the GI Bill. The goal of the GI Bill was to provide immediate rewards for practically all World War II veterans. It avoided the highly disputed postponed cash bonus payout for the World War I veterans that caused political turmoil for a decade and a half after that war. Benefits included dedicated payments of tuition and living expenses to attend high school, college, or vocational/technical school, low-cost mortgages, low-interest loans to start a business, as well as 1 year of unemployment compensation. It was available to all veterans who had been on active duty during the war years for at least 90 days and had not been dishonorably discharged. Exposure to combat was not required. So as long as you were in the service for 3 months, you can enjoy the GI Bill. By 1956, roughly 8.8 million veterans had used the GI Bill education benefits, some 2.2 million to attend colleges or universities, and an additional 5.6 million for some kind of training program. So a lot of people benefit from the GI Bill. GI Bill is like, here's cheap loans to go to school, here's cheap loans to get, to start a business, to get a mortgage for your house, and then 1 year of unemployment compensation. 1 year of unemployment. So where does, when America wants to, they find a shit ton of fucking money somewhere. And then this was passed in 1944. That was before the end of the war. So that's, good for FDR. That is a success. June 22nd, 1964, the U.S. Supreme Court voted that Henry Miller's book, Tropic of Cancer, could not be banned. Now, there's several controversial lines. This is 1964, right? So this is a while ago. Now, you have the controversial lines, Tropic of Cancer. He basically lays out his objective on the very first page. Henry Miller writes, on the first page of Tropic of Cancer, "This is not a book in the ordinary sense of the word. No, this is a prolonged insult, a gob of spit in the face of art, a kick in the pants to God, man, destiny, time, love, beauty, what you will." So he's like, fuck everybody, fuck everything. So he's kicking God in the pants, he's spitting in the face of art, and it's a prolonged insult. The novel was banned in the United States for 27 years, though you could snag a copy of it in Paris in 1934. The ban was eventually overturned, but for 27 fucking years, the freest country in the world, well, apparently during the 40s and 50s and 60s, you weren't allowed to read Henry Miller's book, Tropic of Cancer, because it was banned. It was overturned because, like other banned books, such as Ulysses, Lady Chatterley's Lover, the court ruled that the novel was literature and therefore not pornography. Right? Is it literature? Is it porn? Well, it's all a bunch of words, right? Well, but those words are very salacious. What, like clitoris? Nah, you're not allowed to say those words. This is Puritan 1940 America. So the result was that the Brooklyn-raised Henry Miller, was nearly 70 years old when his first novel was finally published in his home country. Here's a quote: "Paris is like a whore from a distance. She seems ravishing. You can't wait until you have her in your arms, and 5 minutes later you feel empty, disgusted with yourself. You feel tricked." Paris is like a whore. Wow, that's like the whore of Babylon. "You can forgive a young cunt anything. A young cunt doesn't have to have brains. They're better without brains. But an old cunt, even if she's brilliant, even if she's the most charming woman in the world, nothing makes any difference. A young cunt is an investment. An old cunt is a dead loss. All they can do for you is buy you things. But that doesn't put meat on their arms or juice between their legs." That's hardcore, Henry Miller. Hardcore. "What do you want of me? When I have something to say, I put it in print. When I have something to give, I give it. Your prying curiosity turns my stomach. Your compliments humiliate me. Your tea poisons me. I owe nothing to anyone. I would be responsible to God alone if he existed." Miller with the Niacin in 1974. "Oh, Tanya, where now is that warm cunt of yours? Those fat, heavy garters, those soft, bulging thighs. There is a bone in my prick 6 inches long. I will ream out every wrinkle in your cunt, Tanya, big with seed. I will send you home to your Sylvester with an ache in your belly and your womb turned inside out. Your Sylvester. Yes, he knows how to build a fire, but I know how to inflame a cunt. I shoot hot bolts into you. Tanya, I make your ovaries incandescent. Your Sylvester is a little jealous now. He feels something, does he? He feels the remnants of my big prick. I have set the shores a little wider. I have ironed out the wrinkles. After me you could take on stallions, bulls, rams, drakes, St. Bernards. You could stuff toads, bats, lizards up your